Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. First tonight, our public health officials are confident the risk of community transmission of the Delta variant is low after Tasmanians turned out in droves to be tested over the weekend. Meanwhile, QR codes will be mandated in taxis and Ubers from Friday night.
Just 4 days after Tasmania's latest case of COVID-19, a staggering 6,500 people have turned up for testing.
All results have once again returned negative.
Public Health has identified 187 contacts of the 31-year-old COVID-positive traveller. 108 of those are primary close contacts and 82 were on Virgin flight VA1364 into Launceston on August 2.
We're going to monitor all of those people out to 14 days with an appropriate testing regime, and that's how we make sure that nobody in close contact with the case has become a case themselves.
But the Premier insists last week's scare is a wake-up call for everyone.
We're not immune from COVID-19 here in Tasmania, and the Delta strain is a different ballgame.
Police have fined another 2 people for breaching COVID-19 directions. Meanwhile, a stay-at-home order is in place for travellers returning from parts of far north Queensland.
Now this means that from 7 p.m. yesterday, the 8th of August, any person who's been in the Cairns and Yarrabah regions on or since the 29th of July will not be permitted to enter Tasmania unless approved as an essential traveller.
Community pharmacies open next Monday to deliver AstraZeneca for over 60s, and Public Health expects Moderna will be available in the state from September to boost the statewide vaccine rollout.
And Tasmania will be working with the Australian Government to ensure that it receives adequate supplies of the latest vaccine, in addition to Pfizer and AstraZeneca, as we step up our vaccination effort through the rest of this year.
From 6 p.m. Friday, using the Check-in Taz app in all taxis and Ubers will be mandatory, with all public transport to follow in the coming weeks.
But from this week, as the case happened in Lonnie, I was asking every people to do the check-in on the QR code.
For the safety point, it's a good thing. It's good for us and it's good for the community.
A step closer to navigating our way out of the pandemic. Ainsley Kosh, 7 Tasmania News.
There are calls for the federal government to rescue hundreds of Tasmanian aviation workers punished by border closures and create a JobKeeper-style wage subsidy. The union claims hundreds don't qualify for support and are struggling to make ends meet.
No flights, no work and no financial help. This is the cruel reality for hundreds of Tasmanian airport workers.
It feels like you're in a bit of limbo. You don't know what's next and you don't know what your next move is.
This woman, who wants to remain anonymous, is among them. Her full-time job was slashed to just 8 hours a week, barely enough to survive.
That's not even a week's worth of rent.
Like many locals, she is not entitled to disaster relief payments because Tasmania is not in a lockdown, only a COVID lockout.
It's an incredibly difficult time with border closures. We know that that'll be putting pressure on people's jobs.
The Transport Workers Union has challenged the federal government to offer aviation staff a JobKeeper-style wage subsidy.
Well, we want the government to stump up for a proper payment for people that are going to be out of pocket during these lockdowns.
Helping retain jobs in freight, handling and even car rentals.
What happens is if we don't keep the people in the industry, we lose that talent.
The state government says it's pushing the Commonwealth to throw our drowning tourism and travel sectors a financial life raft.
Our government has been working very closely with all stakeholders, with those affected by COVID-19.
But with New South Wales and Victorian border bans all but certain to spill into spring, the fear is if support doesn't come soon,
Our businesses and our tourism industry will continue to suffer.
Or even worse, close their doors for good. Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
A man accused of sparking the 2019 devastating Fingal fires has described the moment he fled to the burning area. In his police interview played to the court, Peter Mathewson compared the scary inferno to hell. It was also heard fire investigators determined the blaze started outside Mr Mathewson's house, not in the hills, as the 37-year-old claims. The trial continues in the Launceston Supreme Court. Well, passengers have piled onto the new ferry between Bellerive and Hobart, excited to trial the service on its first day. So far, it's received rave reviews from commuters, many now hoping its hours will be extended throughout the day and into the weekends.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on board Excella. It takes about 10 or 12 minutes to get across to Hobart's waterfront this morning.
The sun rising over the River Derwent, with the first passengers of the new ferry service from Bellerive making their way into the city.
It was warm, we had free muffins, a coffee voucher, and the seats are really comfy. It's like a lounge chair, so it doesn't get much better going to work like that.
Already making a splash.
Fabulous. Really worth doing.
The Transport Minister among them, happy with the turnout.
More than 200 today, just in the morning, so that's a great start on the first day for a new service.
The service was a 2018 election commitment, but many have been waiting for the ferry a lot longer than that.
Talking about a ferry service on the Derwent, a regular good service ever since basically the bridge reopened back in 1978.
At this stage, the ferry does only run on weekdays with 8 services in the morning and 7 in the evenings, but there are hopes that could eventually be extended.
It'd be great to see it happening if it's popular all the way through the day.
The Minister says adjustments will be made to keep up with demand throughout the 1-year trial period.
It's a trial service. If you want to keep it, jump on board and catch the river.
A message locals are already heeding to.
First day, first trip, going to patronise it so that we can keep this ferry.
With coffee on offer throughout the day, Derwent Ferry's managing director says one of their key selling points is
The bar's open, so you can't have a beer on the bus.
Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
Labor is calling on the Tasmanian government to reveal its plans for the future of its private rental incentives program. The scheme provides bonus payments to landlords, allowing them to rent their properties to low-income households. Emily Payton has been involved for the past 3 years, but her property has been vacant for months after her previous tenants moved out. She's now left waiting for answers.
I like helping people, but I'm about to have a baby. I'm no charity, and there's no bonus payment, which absolutely makes it not ideal for me to stay on the program. I'm losing probably about $100 a week.
This is leaving those that are involved in the program in limbo. It's meaning that gives uncertainty for tenants, and Emily's property right now is sitting empty when it could be used by a Tasmanian family.
The Minister says Communities Tasmania is currently reviewing and modelling the scheme and is committed to making it as fair and equitable as it can be for all parties. Plans to reopen 3 four-wheel drive tracks in the Tarkine have been abandoned. Last month, the cultural assessment found off-road use would damage Aboriginal heritage values in the Arthur Pymon Conservation Area. The state government today confirmed off-road vehicles would not be allowed on the tracks, a move that's been welcomed by Tasmania's Aboriginal community.
We are now really happy to see that Premier Gutwin is acknowledging the importance of the area and the significance of the Aboriginal heritage.
The government will instead investigate alternative routes for off-road access. A devastating fire which wiped out years of production has only whet a whisky maker's appetite to come back bigger and better than before. With the rebuild of Adams Distillery now in motion, its owners are eyeing an expansion well beyond our shores.
Once the darling of the local distillery scene, Adams is once again on the rise. The frame of its new and improved production house went up today, one which will be able to pump out 1 million litres each year.
It's more capacity than we need at the moment, but it sort of future-proofs what we'd like to do over the next sort of 10 years or so.
The original shed was razed by an explosive blaze, knocking out years' worth of product and leaving a worker fighting for life.
Greg is definitely improving, and we can't wait to see him back here.
But the horror of the fire has a silver lining for the business. Better technology will be used to cope with the expansion, making the whisky more consistent and eliminating some of the hard manual work.
We'll be using 5 tonnes of grain a day over 2 sessions, so we don't really want to be shoveling that by hand anymore.
The fire has forced Adams to ration its surviving stock, staggering the release of the whisky inside these barrels until new product can be released in 2025. But the ultimate aim for Adams goes well beyond then. Its holy trinity is to run distilleries in Tasmania, Scotland and the United States.
Which, you know, to some people is a bit of a pipe dream, but I mean, it's something we've always talked about, you know, one day having an international company.
Until then, much like whisky itself, time and patience will be key. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
The community is rallying behind the family of a man who died in a crash in the early hours of yesterday morning. John Chukhaskij was delivering papers in the Derwent Valley when his Toyota Hilux crashed head-on with another ute at Glenora. A fundraising page has now been set up to help his wife and 13 children pay for his funeral. More than $8,000 has been raised so far. Tasmanian taxpayers could lose hundreds of millions of dollars to the poker machine industry under proposed changes to the gaming market, according to economic modelling commissioned by independent member for Nelson, Meg Webb. The MLC claims the proposed new casino pokies tax rate would put $250 million into Federal Group's coffers over its 20-year licence.
It's up to the government to explain why they would forego hundreds of millions of dollars that could be funding Tasmanian hospitals and schools and public housing. Why would we be gifting this money to the pokies industry?
In a statement, Finance Minister Michael Ferguson says the policy will put more money back into essential services and more support for problem gamblers. Submissions for the state government's future gaming markets proposal close today. Terrifying vision has been released of a Tazrael train coming within centimetres of a B-double in Longford. The truck nearly caused a major collision when it snuck in front of the fast-approaching locomotive. Tazrael is reporting a sharp rise in the number of motorists failing to stop and give way at level crossings in the past 12 months, especially on the northwest coast.
They're more aware of the movements up there and should be giving the time to stop and make sure that they get to wherever they're going safely every day.
And they've just got to wait and watch it happen in front of them, which is really, challenging for them.
Trains can take up to 1 kilometre to come to a complete stop. Tazrael is urging Tasmanians to take extra care as part of National Rail Safety Week. The Barossa Valley and Flinders Ranges will be closer than ever when direct flights between Launceston and Adelaide take off next month. Virgin will fly the new route, meaning passengers will no longer need to transfer through Melbourne. Special $59 fares are on offer, with the first flight set for the 7th of September. Adelaide is the first capital city destination added to Launceston in 2 decades. Tasmania's apprentice chefs could have a better chance at landing their dream job following an agreement signed by TasTAFE and the Australian Culinary Federation.
It will give us the opportunity to work really closely with each other, nurturing our young chefs for the future through a trade outline and also through competition as well.
Pressure to keep the standard high, get things done quickly, keep customers happy, are things that are better shared and addressed as a group, and this Young Chefs Mentoring Program will really support young people.
The 4-year Memorandum of Understanding is expected to boost low retention rates within the industry.
The race for the Cripps TSL Player of the Year is tightening up after 19 rounds. Zach Morris was best for Launceston in the Blues belting of Glenorchy. Lauderdale's Alan Christensen made his mark against North Hobart. And Zach Adams of the Tigers was best on for Clarence. With 2 rounds to go, Launceston pair Jake Hines and Jay Blackberry are tied on 20 votes. North Launceston's Jay Foon is also in the running, 2 votes behind.
Good evening. Flinders Island, Smithton and Friendly Beaches had Monday's top of 16 degrees, Hobart 15 today, the northern centres all 14. King Island, Strawn and Ouse 15, Lowhead, St Helens and Grove 14, Lyoweeney 7, the overnight low -2 at Butler's Gorge. Cloud blanketed the state today, but just high-level cloud over the southeast of the state. That cloud also passing over Victoria with blobs of mid-level cloud over the east and west of the mainland. Tomorrow, the large high extends from the Tasman Sea to well over central Australia. A trough breaks in there over central WA. Winds northwesterly at 10 to 20 knots, increasing to 20 to 30 knots and reaching 35 knots over the west and south in the evening. Winds over the lake strong as well, to 30 knots tomorrow. We have a gale warning from southeast Cape to Stanley, a strong wind warning for remaining coastal waters and also for the inland lakes. Hobart on Tuesday, 17 and partly cloudy, becoming windy for Adventure Bay, 15 the top and 14 for Tarraleah. Launceston tomorrow looking at 15 degrees and partly cloudy, a shower or 2 later for Devonport and 15, a possible late shower for Bridport, 15 the top as well. Burnie a late shower, 15, 17 the high for Strawn, with showers increasing, a shower or two and becoming windy for Marrawar, 15 the top. 16 for St Helens and partly cloudy. Swansea 16 as well, 16 for Whitemark and sunny on Flinders Island. On to Wednesday now, and rain predicted over the north and west with thunderstorms and hail. A few showers elsewhere across the state and snow to 800 metres. Lot to look forward to. Showers easing on Thursday but hanging on over the west and the Bass Strait Islands, and snow still clinging to the peaks on Friday as showers contract to the west, central and south. Showers and a possible storm in Perth tomorrow, fine and 20 for Adelaide. Sunny but windy in Melbourne, 18 the top. Fine and sunny for Canberra and Sydney, partly cloudy over Brisbane. And it's currently partly cloudy over Hobart as well, 11 degrees right now. Currently 10 degrees in Launceston and partly cloudy in Devonport and 11. And a big night tomorrow night, Kim, as we all stay at home and count how many are living there. You know, I never thought I'd really get turned on by population statistics, Kim, but then I came to my senses.
It had to come. You can get it tomorrow night as well. I'm sure we'll have another version of that. Thank you very much, Murph. Well, one more story before we go tonight. A super-sized swell has rocked wave riders at Shipstern Bluff. The monster swell had one brave bodyboarder bouncing off the water. 26-year-old Sam Thomas is a 10-year veteran of Shipstern Bluff. He described it as the wave of his life, and it is easy to see why. That is special. And that is all your news for now. We'll have updates throughout the night tonight, but thanks for joining us this Monday. Have a great night. Good night.